Most Korean actors complete their mandatory military service and return to the spotlight. But some took on challenges far beyond what was required, volunteering for elite units, frontline combat divisions, and military assignments known for pushing recruits to their absolute limits. And one actor on this list completed a special forces selection process so brutal that most candidates never make it through. Today, we're counting down 10 Korean stars who served in some of South Korea's most elite military units. Let's get into it. Number 10. Kim Myung-soo.
진짜 솔직하게 말씀드리면요. 그날 제가 아가씨를 구했어요. 창문 팍 깨지고 유리조각이 막 피처럼 우수수 떨어지는데 내가 날...
If you've been a K-drama or K-pop fan for any length of time, chances are you know Kim Myung-soo, better known as L of Infinite. With his striking visuals and almost unreal screen presence, he spent years earning a reputation as one of the industry's most recognizable faces. But while fans knew him as an idol and actor, the Korean military came to know him for something entirely different. When L enlisted in February 2021, he didn't take the easiest route. Instead, he volunteered for the Republic of Korea Marine Corps, one of the most demanding branches of South Korea's military. And that's a big deal, because unlike most military service assignments, you can't simply be drafted into the Marines. Every Marine chooses to be there. The training is famously intense, pushing recruits to their physical and mental limits before they earn the right to wear the Marine Corps' iconic red name tag. The unit's reputation is so formidable that North Korea once gave them the nickname Ghost-Catching Marines. L went on to serve in the elite 1st Marine Division, where he quietly built a reputation that had nothing to do with celebrity status. By the time he completed his service in August 2022, he had earned enough respect to be invited back and speak to new recruits about Marine Corps history, values, and traditions. Not many idols leave the military with that kind of recognition. For someone once known simply as Infinite's handsome visual, Kim Myung-soo proved he was much more than a pretty face. Number 9. Chang-wook. When one of Korea's biggest stars enlisted, he left behind sold-out fan meetings, hit dramas, and life in the spotlight for something completely different. That was Chang-wook, known for Healer, the K2, Suspicious Partner, and The Worst of Evil. In August 2017, just weeks after Suspicious Partner finished airing, Chang-wook enlisted for his mandatory military service. Before leaving, he personally met fans and said goodbye, knowing he would be away for nearly 2 years. His military journey began at the Army's 3rd Infantry Division, better known as the White Skeleton Division, a frontline unit stationed near the border. And from the very beginning, he stood out. After completing basic training, Chang-wook received an award for exemplary performance, graduating as one of the top trainees in his group. He was then assigned to the Army's 5th Artillery Brigade in Gyeongsang, where he spent the remainder of his service. Over time, he was appointed a platoon leader, promoted to corporal, and eventually reached the rank of sergeant. For nearly 2 years, one of Korea's most recognizable actors traded movie sets and camera crews for military life. And when he was discharged in April 2019, fans welcomed back not only a beloved actor, but someone who had quietly completed his service with distinction. Number 8. Yoon Shi-yoon.
난 우리가 마음이 같다고 확인한 걸로 만족해. 그게 가장 중요한 거잖아. 결혼의 의미라는 게 그런 거잖아.
What if one of K-drama's most lovable boy-next-door actors turned out to be a Marine trained for some of the military's toughest missions? That boy next door is Yoon Shi-yoon, the actor who won over audiences in High Kick Through the Roof, and later starred in dramas like Flower Boy Next Door, Mirror of the Witch, and Grand Prince. But behind that warm smile and easygoing image is a military resume that surprises a lot of people. Like Kim Myung-soo before him, Yoon volunteered for the Republic of Korea Marine Corps. He was assigned to the 2nd Marine Division, better known as the legendary Blue Dragons. And that's no ordinary unit. The Blue Dragons are one of the most respected forces in Korean military history. Their reputation dates back to the Vietnam War, where they earned recognition for taking on overwhelming odds and holding their ground in some of the conflict's toughest battles. Today, they remain an elite amphibious assault force, trained to be among the first troops deployed into dangerous and hostile environments, which makes Yoon Shi-yoon's military service all the more unexpected. On screen, he's often played sweet, awkward, and good-hearted characters, the kind of leading man you'd expect to see stumbling through a romantic comedy rather than charging through military exercises. Yet, behind the scenes, he went through the same grueling training as every other Marine. Freezing water drills, exhausting field exercises, long marches, and the relentless discipline the Corps is known for. It's a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, because while fans saw a charming underdog on screen, the Marine Corps saw someone willing to take on one of the toughest challenges South Korea's military has to offer. Number 7. Choi Minho.
눈 멀 뻔했어. 다칠 뻔했다고. 사람을 좀 봐가면서.
어디 봐 다쳤나? 잘 지냈나? 내가 보고 싶은 다시 볼게.
What do you do when your original military plan falls through? If you're Choi Minho, you pick something even harder. Minho of SHINee is famous for his boundless energy, fierce competitiveness, and acting roles in dramas like To the Beautiful You and Hwarang. And his military story starts with a setback. Before enlisting, Minho applied for the military police but didn't make the final cut. For many people, that might have been a reason to choose a less demanding assignment. Minho went in the opposite direction. Instead, he volunteered for the Republic of Korea Marine Corps, one of the toughest branches in the entire military. In April 2019, he joined the prestigious 1st Marine Division, the oldest and most historic division in the Corps, headquartered in Pohang. It's a unit with a long and respected legacy, known for producing some of the military's most disciplined and battle-ready Marines. For someone accustomed to sold-out concerts, world tours, and screaming fans, military life couldn't have been more different. The spotlight was gone. The comfortable routines of celebrity life disappeared. In their place came grueling training, long marches, muddy field exercises, and the relentless discipline that Marine service demands. Yet, by all accounts, Minho embraced the challenge from day one. That probably shouldn't surprise anyone who knows his reputation. Whether it's sports, variety shows, or military service, Minho has never been the type to back down from a challenge. If anything, he seems to run toward them. During his enlistment, he even crossed paths with fellow musician Lee Chan-hyuk of AKMU, who was serving at the same time. When Minho was discharged in November 2020, he returned to the entertainment industry with something more valuable than another career achievement. He had earned the respect that comes from choosing one of the military's hardest paths and seeing it through to the very end. Number 6. Kim Hyun-joong.
다른 건 다 읽다 보다 숫덩이가 됐는데 콩은 서리 걷네.
오래 삶았는데도 그러네.
미리 물에 2시간 담가놨다 불렸어야지.
What if the actor who played one of K-drama's most gentle and romantic heartthrobs ended up serving at one of the most heavily guarded borders in the world? His name is Kim Hyun-joong, leader of SS-501, who became famous across Asia through Boys Over Flowers and Playful Kiss. After completing his basic military training, Kim Hyun-joong received an assignment that few would envy, a posting with the 30th Division in Paju, near the Korean Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. Despite the name, the DMZ is anything but peaceful. Stretching across the Korean peninsula, it's one of the most heavily fortified borders in the world. Soldiers stationed there spend long hours on patrol and watch duty, maintaining constant vigilance along one of the most sensitive military areas on Earth. Kim served there from May 2015 until his discharge in February 2017, spending much of his military service far from the spotlight and the entertainment industry. These days, he's focused primarily on music and overseas activities rather than mainstream Korean dramas. But among K-drama actors who served in demanding military assignments, a posting near the DMZ remains one of the most challenging, and certainly one of the furthest things imaginable from life on a drama set. Number 5. Joo Won.
걱정하지 마. 어? 12층에 산모하고 아기만 올려보내고 금방 올게. 진짜야.
안 돼.
진짜야. 금방 올게.
Some actors spend their military service following orders. Joo Won ended up giving them. Joo Won is the star of Bridal Mask, Good Doctor, Young-pal, and Alice. What's impressive about his military story is that he actually had a less demanding option available. Joo Won passed the exam to serve as a police officer, a path many celebrities choose because it's generally considered less physically demanding than active duty frontline service. Instead, he volunteered for active duty. He was assigned to the Army's 3rd Infantry Division, better known as the White Skeleton Division. Stationed near the front line, the unit has one of the toughest reputations in the Korean military, with a history stretching back to the Korean War and a skull emblem that perfectly matches its intimidating image. And Joo Won didn't just get through it, he stood out. During basic training, he reportedly ranked first in his class for both physical fitness and mental resilience. His performance earned him a promotion to assistant instructor, meaning he spent much of the rest of his service helping train and mentor new recruits. Fellow soldiers also reportedly sought him out for advice and support, partly because he enlisted later than many of them and was seen as a dependable older figure within the unit. By the time he completed his service in early 2019, Joo Won had earned a reputation not just as a celebrity soldier, but as one of the standout servicemen in his division. Number 4. Hyun-bin.
현 위치에서 교전점까지 400m. 진입각 11시 방향. 교전에는 10. K2 자동수청 6종. 떼떼33 똑거래 부건총 3종으로 교전 중이다. 떼떼33이란 우리 쪽 사람들이다.
What happens when one of the biggest stars in Asia volunteers for one of the most dangerous military postings available? That would be Hyun-bin, the global superstar of Secret Garden, Crash Landing on You, and the Confidential Assignment films. When Hyun-bin enlisted in March 2011, he wasn't just famous. He was at the height of Secret Garden mania. Hundreds of fans gathered at the training center to see him off, including many who had flown in from Japan, China, and Hong Kong. As cameras rolled, he removed his cap to reveal his freshly shaved head, bowed deeply, and promised fans he would return after serving honorably. What happened next is what made his military service legendary. The Marine Corps reportedly had the option of assigning him to a public relations role, a far more comfortable position for someone of his celebrity status. Instead, Hyun-bin ended up serving with the 6th Marine Brigade on Baekneung Island, one of the most sensitive military locations in South Korea. This wasn't a ceremonial assignment. Baekneung Island sits near the maritime border with North Korea and has long been considered one of the country's most strategically important frontline areas. At the time, tensions in the region were especially high following several major military incidents, and Hyun-bin embraced the challenge completely. During training, he earned recognition as a top marksman and built a reputation as a disciplined, hard-working Marine. Fellow servicemen later revealed that he was known for taking his duties seriously and rarely drawing attention to his celebrity status. When he was discharged in December 2012, thousands of fans gathered once again to welcome him home. By then, he had earned both the Secretary of Defense Award and a commendation from the Marine Corps Commandant for exemplary service. Years later, there's a bit of irony in the story. The actor who once stood guard near the North Korean border would go on to become internationally famous for playing a North Korean officer in Crash Landing on You. Sometimes real life writes the best scripts. Number 3. Taecyeon.
마음 단단히 먹는 게 좋을 게야.
What if one of K-pop's biggest stars willingly gave up an easy way out and chose one of the hardest paths instead? He's Taecyeon, member of 2PM and the actor known for Vincenzo, Bring It On, Ghost, and Heartbeat. Taecyeon served in the Army's 9th Infantry Division, better known as the legendary White Horse Division, a frontline combat unit whose name traces back to one of the most famous battles of the Korean War. But impressive as that is, it's not the most remarkable part of his military story. The truth is, Taecyeon didn't have to serve at all. Having spent part of his youth in the United States, he held a U.S. permanent resident card, a status that could have exempted him from mandatory military service. As if that weren't enough, he was also dealing with a herniated disc in his back, a condition that qualified him for a less physically demanding form of service. Most people would have accepted one of those options without thinking twice. Taecyeon did the exact opposite. Determined to serve as an active duty soldier, he voluntarily gave up his U.S. permanent residency and underwent extensive rehabilitation to improve his physical condition. After years of effort, he successfully qualified for active duty service and enlisted in September 2017. Later, he explained that military service was something he felt he owed to his country and to the fans who had supported him throughout his career. And once he put on the uniform, he didn't do anything halfway. During his enlistment, he transformed physically, gaining significant muscle and earning a reputation for discipline and dedication. He became an assistant drill instructor, received recognition as an exemplary soldier, and was even selected to demonstrate the Army's Advanced Warrior Platform combat equipment during a nationally televised Armed Forces Day ceremony. In other words, he didn't just serve, he excelled. By the time he completed his military service, fans had given him a nickname that perfectly captured the public's admiration: Captain Korea. And when you look at everything he voluntarily gave up just for the chance to serve, it's easy to understand why. Number 2. Lee Seung-gi.
그동안 내 덕분에 장사해 먹었으면 뭐 고객 관리 같은 거 같이 해야 되는 거 아닙니까? 아, 각자 놀자. 그럽시다 그럼. 나도 이 새끼 검찰에 갖다 주지 뭐.
What do you do when your military training forces you to face your biggest fear? If you're Lee Seung-gi, you jump anyway. Lee Seung-gi is the singer, actor, and television host often called Korea's ultimate triple threat, thanks to projects like Goo Family Book, Vagabond, and Mouse. When he enlisted in February 2016, Lee Seung-gi wasn't assigned to an ordinary unit. He served in the Army's Special Warfare Command, better known as the legendary Black Berets, South Korea's elite special forces. More specifically, he was assigned to the 13th Special Forces Brigade, nicknamed the Black Panthers. These are highly trained airborne soldiers tasked with some of the military's most demanding missions, including parachute operations and deep infiltration assignments. But here's what makes his story so memorable. Despite his confident public image, Lee Seung-gi has openly admitted that he was terrified of one part of Special Forces training: jumping out of airplanes. He's afraid of heights. In letters to fans, he later revealed that the mandatory airborne training was so intimidating that he even wondered whether he could be reassigned. The answer, unsurprisingly, was no. So he did what every Special Forces trainee has to do. He got on the plane and jumped, again and again. By the time he completed his service in October 2017, Lee Seung-gi had earned the rank of Reserve Sergeant and emerged with a completely different level of confidence. In interviews afterward, he often spoke about how much military service had changed him, and overcoming that fear of heights remained one of the experiences he remembered most. Because sometimes courage isn't about not being afraid, it's about stepping forward even when you are. Number 1. Dex.
이 동네 혹시 연락 안 되는 배달부 있니?
저번에 말했잖아요. 이환이라는 애요.
걔 없어진 지 얼마나 됐어?
2주 됐나?
2주?
And finally, there's Dex. Real name, Kim Jin-young. Today, millions know him as the breakout star of Steel Troops, Singles Inferno 2, and countless variety shows. Others know him as the rising actor appearing in projects like Tarot, The Defects, and Eye Shopping. But long before the cameras, the fame, and the fan base, Dex had already survived something that most people couldn't even imagine: Before entering entertainment, he served in the Republic of Korea Navy's UDT/SEAL, one of the country's most elite special operations forces, and a unit often compared to the US Navy SEALs. And getting in is only half the battle. UDT/SEAL selection is notorious for breaking candidates physically and mentally. Recruits endure relentless endurance tests, punishing open water swims, extreme sleep deprivation, and the dreaded Hell Week, where exhaustion becomes part of the challenge. Only a small percentage of candidates make it all the way through. This isn't a unit built for ceremonies or photo opportunities either. UDT/SEAL operators are trained for counter-terrorism missions, maritime special warfare, hostage rescue operations, and some of the military's highest-risk assignments. Dex successfully completed the training and went on to serve for 4 years as a Navy non-commissioned officer. During that time, he was assigned to the Special Mission Battalion, a counter-terrorism unit within the Naval Special Warfare Flotilla. He was also deployed to the UAE as part of South Korea's AK unit. What's even more impressive is that none of this was widely known when he first appeared on television. Viewers initially saw a confident guy with movie star looks, then they learned about his military background. Suddenly, his composure under pressure, his fearlessness in challenges, and the quiet confidence he carried everywhere started making a lot more sense. And that wraps up our list. Which star impressed you the most? For me, it has to be Lee Seung-gi. Let me know your pick in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't go anywhere just yet. Click on the video on your screen right now to see the newest babies born to K-drama stars and the heartwarming stories behind them. See you there!